Hey y'all, and welcome to this content. I appreciate y'all listening. I want to get into content. I want to get into a subject matter that involves Roberson. Okay, and then I wonder. I love Dr. Phil. Y'all, I can watch Dr. Phil over, over, and over and over again because he knows, and sometimes he knows what he's talking about, but majority of the time he does. Now, I got a problem with the guy that he is defending is in protecting and testifying, and you will hear his testimony in a minute. But let me give y'all don't know Robert Robertson. I don't know Robert Robertson personally, but I've been following up. You know how I am with cases. I in and out of them because I have to work and stuff. And so I try to make time to bring y'all information. But let me give you a little information on Robert Robertson. This young man is in Texas on death row. But everything I say is allegedly, and this is for educating and commenting and criticism. I want to hear what y'all got to say about this. When it comes down to kids, it's just how I take it, how far I go. I love kids, but if you did something wrong, you do it. But listen to this. I'm going to give you a little information on Robert Robertson, and y'all go from what Robert Robertson was told that he done. Is he protecting someone, or did he really do this? Y'all tell me, because they had plenty of time before death row to walk up and talk about this. Here we go. Mr. Robinson dropped out of high school and had some conviction for nonviolent crimes. He had a job delivering newspapers in a small town of Pelliston, Texas. His lawyer said when he got custody of his 2-year-old daughter, Nikki, in the fall of 201, okay? Okay, 2001. He got the custody of his 2-year-old daughter now, okay? A few months later, y'all, in January, his lawyer said, this is what his lawyer said, said that Robert was sleeping at home alone with Nikki. When he woke up to find she had stopped breathing. Mind you, this is a 2-year-old breathing and was turning blue. She had been sick with a high fever, visiting doctors in the emergency room in the previous days, and had been prescribed medication, including codeine. What? A 2-year-old codeine and phenergan. Earlier that night, he told investigator she had fallen out of bed. Come on now. First the medicine, now she falling out the bed. And now Dr. Phil is defending him. The baby, okay, let me go on because I'm getting kind of upset. That's why when talking about kids, that 2-year-old being sick. He took her to the emergency room, which he did right, where she was pronounced unalive. Scans found that she had internal conditions that have been associated with shaken baby syndrome. So dural bleeding, brain swelling, and retinal hemorrhages. She also had some bruising, which Dr. Robinson, I'm sorry, not Dr. Mr. Robinson explained as having come from the falling from the bed. First of all, it's too much going on. It's too much going on. She falling out of bed. She can't breathe. She been sick. This is not a good sign. Now, they had an autopsy done on this baby. Okay. Now, the autopsy include the death to be a homicide as a result of blunt force head injuries, which the medical examiner explained at the trial consists of a combination of shaking and impacts. Mr. Roberson became, because he had been alone with her, was charged with murder. They charged him with murder. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that? Come on now, Dr. Field. Come on, Dr. Field. This is what Robert said happened. And this is what the medical examiner is said done. Now, Roberson just got his 2-year-old daughter. Why is she sick and he just got her? Boy, there's so much TV going on in here. Y'all need to stay off these TVs. Now, Roberson did not appear to show emotion, y'all, about her conditions, which police investigators, prosecutors pointed to as a sign of his guilt. Later, he was diagnosed with autism, which could have explained his response. And he got the baby custody of the 2-year-old. Not saying he can't take care of his kid, but what? What is going on with this? So, Mr. Roberson trial in 2003, prosecutors said that the medical evidence and testimony proved that he had severely beaten, violently shaken his daughter, causing her death. 2 witnesses, Mr. Robertson's girlfriend, daughter, and a young niece, said that they had seen him shake Nikki and demonstrate the shaking on a teddy bear for the jurors. Mr. Roberson's defense attorney argued that he had not intended to hurt Nikki. But in other words, you're trying to say that he did it, but he didn't intend to do it. Now, he was convicted in that trial and then sentenced to death. Now, what else? So many people tried to stop. They tried to stop his execution, y'all, for years. Now, Mr. Roberson's lawyer have been raising questions about his conviction, particularly in reliance on what they have said as an outmodel understanding of the condition that his daughter presented at the hospital, and belief at the time that those conditions almost certainly pointed to inflicted head trauma. Why is they trying to stop this execution, y'all? Let's hear what Mr. Now, what I want to say this before I turn y'all into Dr. Phil, because I'm so excited to hear his testimony, which I have already listened to it, but I'm discouraged about what's going on here. Now, based on a medical record unearthed since the trial and expert testimony, they have argued that Nikki underlied from a combination of viral pneumonia and prescribed medication. She was taking particularly Fernigat, okay, rather than shaken baby syndrome. Now they changed it, y'all. I see why they trying to stop the execution. Why would one medical examiner explain to us that it was shaken baby syndrome just because a child said they saw him shaking it? But the autopsy, yeah, also when they did the first medical examiner, they said shaken baby syndrome. Now they changed it to pneumonia. His lawyer contend her condition could have been explained by the lack of oxygen, which is true, which could cause brain swelling and effort at hospitals to restart her heart after there were already signs of brain death, a situation that could cause blood to pool in the skull. His execution was delayed once before in 2016, y'all. Let's listen to Dr. Phil. Now I see why Dr. Phil is defending him. See, I don't trust the medical examiners, some of them, for some reason. You said 2 things. You said baby shaking syndrome. Then you turn around and say pneumonia, and she was taking medicine, which is the truth. And why would he do this to his baby? And he just got her. Let's look at this, y'all. Let's listen to Dr. Phil. This is my boy. This is my boy, y'all.
And learning about his case. And I want to talk about what I've done to be able to speak about this. I've reviewed the transcripts and supporting documents from his trial. I've done an intensive forensic interview with him, and I think I am in a position to do that because a lot of my career, decades, have been spent in the legal arena, both civil and criminal. And in terms of my training, so people know, I do have extensive training in clinical psychology and behavioral medicine or medical psychology from the great University of North Texas in their PhD program, and then I completed a postdoctoral fellowship in forensic psychology, and spent a lot of time working in the litigation arena for a big part of my professional career. And not to bury the lead, I am 100% convinced that we're facing a miscarriage of justice here. I say that because I do not believe that Mr. Roberson has had due process in this case. I do not believe he has yet enjoyed a fair trial in this matter. And I'll talk about that
I'm going to skip it a little bit. Yeah.
That in the United States of America, if we are going to, that's on the state that's seeking to execute this man. And that's why I say there was not due process in this case. There were people that, in my opinion, did not do their job. No one, including me, can say with 100% certainty what happened in that house that morning. My professional opinion is that this is not a man with malice. This is not someone that hurt this child. What I can tell you that goes beyond opinion, after examining the record in this case, the trial transcript in this case, the medical records in this case, this man has not had due process. This man has not had a fair trial. And if we start executing people in Texas absent due process, absent fair trial, we are going down a really dangerous road. That is not something that I can support. And I know that has not happened. As I say, it's a very high standard to take someone's life. We must have the courage to make choices that matter at times that count, and it is always the right time to do the right thing. I welcome this committee's questions.
Doctor, thank you very much, and I appreciate your testimony. I do have a couple of follow-up questions, and then if there are other members that have questions, I'll defer to them as well. I want to focus on Robert's autism. Can you help explain the disconnect that there is between interior life and external expression? How does that present itself with someone with autism, and how does that affect a person that's in the criminal justice system?
Well, how much time do we have? Autism is not a one-dimensional disorder, and that's why it's referred to as spectrum because there is a broad range of how autism expresses itself, and it can change across time. Um, what we do know is that there is a difference between internal experience and external expression and interaction. And you certainly see that um, with Robert. Um, I think that Robert is very flat of affect. Um, I think he is not cognitively agile in expressing himself, and he is emotionally not well developed in terms of expressing, showing emotions.
Yeah, I want to stop right here. Do you hear Dr. Phil? Who gave this man custody of that baby? Who gave this man custody of this child after knowing his health records, condition?
For interacting with someone on an emotional plane, the way you would experience 9 out of 10 people that might not be on the spectrum. So you're not going to get a typical response from him in a crisis situation or a normal situation. And having spent 21 years on death row, which is very confining and absent a lot of the stimulation that people normally get, that's going to worsen and deepen the situation in most cases. And as I say, every situation is different. I can speak to Robert's situation.
Yeah, let me share this with y'all. The court found that the medical understanding had changed regarding shaken baby syndrome. It especially cited the lack of evidence that shaking alone could produce the kind of under the skin bleeding since seen in the child. Oh, boy.
In that his world has constricted, as you would think anyone that's confined in that kind of a space. But to his credit, he has distinguished himself. And he is one of very few that has elevated himself to have some freedom to move about the pod. He has a pretty much spotless record on death row, disciplinary wise, problem wise. And he, as someone that is very convicted in his faith and is a strong believer, and he does have people that come and see him and visit with him. In fact, the investigator that led the prosecution efforts at the time comes and sees him on a regular basis, and he's gotten comfortable with him. And that investigator has completely changed his position, believes he made a mistake in pursuing Robert at the time, has asked his forgiveness, which Robert has graciously extended to him. And the two of them have a pretty comfortable relationship where Robert can speak to him openly. And he was much more comfortable by the time I got through talking to him than he was at the beginning. But still, he had very pushed verbalizations. He had a difficult time with eye contact. He had a difficult time relating and responding in what I would call a predictable way. expect with someone that was functioning absent the autistic diagnosis.
How long did you sit with him on medication?
They give you exactly 60 minutes, and I made sure I got every second from start to finish on a stopwatch.
How far apart were you? What was the physical?
There's glass between us. He's on the phone and I'm on the phone, but we're maybe 3 feet between us.
You've conducted interviews over video conference?
I have, and I've conducted a number of interviews on death row with the glass between my
Okay, so far with this. All right, that's Dr. Phil, y'all. Let me see what else he gonna say about this, and I can share something else with y'all. Hold on, y'all.
Play the record and look the individual in the eye and passionately believe that there's been a miscarriage of justice. I just don't step up to them.
Okay, y'all. Also, it said that Robert is 57 years old, y'all, and was set to execute it back in 2003. Now, he has claimed his innocence for roughly 2 decades with his lawyer, citing junk science as the reason for his conviction. Okay? According to the Associated Press, Roberson would have been the first person in the United States to be executed over a shaken baby syndrome conviction. What do y'all think? What do you all think? The medical examiner is the fault of this, because the medical examiner having everybody with her prognosis of shaken baby syndrome, but you switch it from pneumonia. I don't know, y'all. And then if this man living with a conditioning, mental conditioning like that, that baby shouldn't be around him by itself, no way. And the other kids, his kids said what he did. Why would they say they didn't see their dad do that? They love their dad, girls especially. So would y'all blame it on the junk science? Controversial? The medical? Downlots? What do you all think of this situation? I'm gonna let y'all listen to a little bit more of Dr. Phil.
When you have a circumstantial case, we don't know what happened behind those closed doors. I can't say that with 100% accuracy. I would be going beyond my skill set to say what happened behind that closed door. I don't know that. He woke up at 5 a.m. and says he found this child on the floor and with labored breathing, because she'd been sick for quite a while. He says he was able to get her feeling okay and put her back to bed. Should he have taken her at 5? I wasn't there, didn't see her, don't know. But he testifies that she got to feeling better, and this wasn't a new thing. He had only had her for a couple of months, but you saw the record, 46 times across 2 years. Put her back to bed. Then he finds her again, and now he races her to the hospital. I don't know that any crime took place, and I think if this full record and the testimony from Dr. Green and other pathologists, I think they would say no crime was committed here at all.
Doctor, thanks for being here.
Chairman Dodd. Excuse me. Dr. Bill, thank you for coming today. Your testimony is valuable to us. First of all, it would indicate to me, at least, that somebody shook that baby to death. And since you were the last person to be near that child, that you were therefore guilty by simply being charged with the name. What are your thoughts on that? Whether psychologically to a
Right.
jury, just being charged with shaken baby syndrome would indicate in the jury's mind that there was a crime committed, that you've now said perhaps was no crime. What are your thoughts on that? Well, I think you're exactly right, Representative Darby. In psychology, we refer to something called iatrogenic label, where the label itself creates more problems than what it describes, and that is a very toxic label, obviously, and that's why I say I think sometimes burden of proof is a myth. When a jury hears something like that, they go, wow, if that's not what we're down here for. We have a dead child, and they're pointing fingers over here at this guy who doesn't seem to be terribly sensitive or upset. And if we're not down here for that, somebody needs to give me a really good alternative explanation, because they're looking over here. It's just like this setup right here. You got that big state seal up there and those flags beside it, and you got armed guards over here and all, and there's an awful lot of entrapments to this situation, trappings to this situation that make it seem awfully official. And then you got the guy over here, and the prosecutor knows the judge, and the judge knows the prosecutor, and they're calling each other by name, and the court clerk, and all is like, "Hi Betty, how are you today?" And it's like everything seems against the guy that's there for the first time ever, and so there's a lot of momentum here. Somebody better have a really good alternative explanation, and there was a really good alternative explanation. The only flaw was it never got mentioned. It never got told, which is why I made the point that jurors make decisions on what they see and hear, not on what they don't see and hear. All of this that I talked about today never
Junk
got
science.
into the court record. It never got reported. Nobody ever put all those pieces together until 18 years later, when the Innocence Project with pro bono lawyers and all come along and start piecing it together, and then they come to me, and I have my whole team at Merit TV, and everybody starts coming together, and now all of a sudden you have a valid defense team, and now you get an alternative explanation. Well, I made a statement before you came into the chamber here, but the purpose of this body and committee, in my opinion, today, is to examine our current law that's on record that we created. There was a problem when convicted people could not get their matter heard on appeal because there was not an avenue created by the legislature. We created it. And so in 2013, we addressed that deficiency. I'm going to be kind of a long question, but if you'll bear with me. We said that specific facts must be available that indicate relevant scientific evidence was currently available and was not available at the time of the conviction because the evidence was not discernible through reasonable diligence at the time of the trial, and the scientific evidence would be admitted.
So we going by scientific evidence what happened to little Nikki. Now, is it junk science? Are they making up something? First of all, what are we going to do if we don't believe in the medical examiner? If we don't believe the medical examiner, who are we going to believe? When anybody in any given situation is on death row, Not only just Robert with this situation. So you're gonna take in Texas, you're gonna take all the shaken baby syndrome and the junk science. What are y'all gonna do about the other people y'all got locked up? I think they need to go through everybody's records, y'all. I'm not trying to jump the subject, but let me finish him. I think they need to take everybody's record that in jail, may be in jail for nothing, may be on death row for nothing, that a crime that they did commit it. Somebody need to go through the system, clean it up, and go through everybody's record in them prisons and free some of these men. Free some of these people who really didn't do nothing. Y'all just got them behind bars that's making money.
Under the Texas rules of evidence that a trial held on the date of the application. And finally, the court would have to find that if the scientific evidence had been presented at trial on a preponderance of the evidence, the person would not have been convicted. Okay. Now, that did not go far enough. So 2 years later, in 2015, we passed another law and said the courts would now consider whether the field of scientific knowledge, not junk science as we conveniently refer to it, we now refer to it as the field of scientific knowledge had changed.
Look, y'all, look. They don't want to say they don't want to call it junk science, but that's what it is.
Would also have to consider a new item, whether a testifying expert's scientific knowledge had changed. And so we created those standards. And what I'm trying to get to, did we go far enough or did we go too far? For example, it bothers me that the Court of Appeals seems to be taking a higher standard. They say that the evidence must reflect that the accused would be innocent. I don't think that's the standard by which we anticipated or created in 2013 and 2015. This almost, several of the witnesses, I think they're going to testify again today, it's almost as though this habeas trial, it's kind of like a game of football.
Right.
You're going to win or lose. I mean, instead of trying to determine, in your words, the goal is to seek justice, it doesn't appear that the functionality that we've created in the Court of Appeals is designed to seek justice, or is it simply designed to see who wins and loses?
See what he just said? Y'all hear what he said? Is it for justice or is it any, mean, mighty, mo? Y'all designed this. Y'all produced this. When you make laws, that's what we talked about this numerous of times, y'all, on my show. I told y'all when they whoever made these lawmakers are was being selfish when they made these laws. They ain't thinking about nobody or nothing. They want to come up with their own science, their own probable cause, their own this. Now you about to change the law. If that panel up there go against what they have created, then you got to go through the system, the jurisdiction system, and release everybody that has been convicted of this kind of crime. But y'all made the law. They made the law. They sit here talking about the law that they made. In other words, they made that law, so why should we change it for Dr. Phil? That's what he said.
That's what's bothersome to me. If we created
language
that would suggest the Court of Appeals is saying, no, that evidence has to show the accused is innocent.
Told y'all.
When I don't think when we voted for this bill in 2015, 2013, that was a level of examination that I don't think we created. guess ultimately I'll come to a question. The question is, do you think that our current law for
Told y'all.
scientific knowledge has changed, and whether or not
Listen, y'all. Listen. See, y'all. You hear what he's saying? Scientific knowledge. Scientific knowledge. Y'all, they got to change the law. All of the laws for everything need to be rewritten. Because somebody's still living from 1893. You can't use the same laws in that year with these years now, because things change. Knowledge has changed. Science has changed. But 2013 ain't that far from here. But I mean, who made that? Who created that law? Where are they? What y'all was sitting there? Why didn't y'all open up your big mouth? You open up your mouth now. Why didn't you open up your mouth then? See, people, when you talk about lawmakers, y'all, you talk about people who write laws to see people fail. And it can happen to their family member. That's why when you make laws, you need to look and sit down, not being selfish because you don't have kids and you don't like kids. See, you got to think about all that. You got either don't like people. You know, it's sometimes ain't about the laws, y'all. And science, if you're gonna blame it on the science, then it's junk science. What do y'all think?
if we had expert testify, that changed his testimony, saying that he believes he wasn't innocent. I mean, he wasn't guilty. Do you think our current, and I'm giving you the factors that compose what we're trying to address here, is that science has changed. Do you believe that we followed that law?
What I just say? What did Lanita just say? Y'all give me credit where it do. Give me credit where it do. Everything I just said, now he's saying it's obviously that's the truth. I'm not gonna say here. I'm not nothing to play with, y'all. I know my study. I know what I can hear. I can understand. You know, I mean, come on, y'all. You live it every day. You see it. You live it and see these things. Science is real. The law has to change, y'all. And if you're gonna change the law, y'all don't messed up. You're messed up. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Let me hear. I can't wait to hear what Dr. Phil about to say.
Court of Appeals has followed that law, and if not, what should we include in statute that will assure that following? Well, I can answer that. Can I answer that in two parts? Sure. One is, I think it needs, whatever it is, needs to be followed evenly. I believe it's the Roark case that last week or the week before, a new trial was granted, correct? But in this one, it's not. So, I mean, it seems to me like it needs to be evenly applied. So I'm wondering, how do you explain that to Mr. Roberson's family? And then, secondly, I think there's some simple language that might help. And now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't mean to brag, but I'm not. If you added something to it that said, in the event the filing is on behalf of a convicted person to be executed, the court shall stay the execution and grant the convicted person a new trial if the relevant scientific evidence was not available to the convicted person in light of his or her circumstances, and or that relevant scientific evidence contradicts scientific evidence relied upon by the the state at trial. So if it's evolved and it wasn't available at the time, they ought to get the best science available that bears on their conviction. It seems to me when they're executed for a long time. And you see something as clear as the case I cited earlier about Mr. Byrd. It took from 97 to 2019 to execute one of those perpetrators. In a circumstantial case, how can you not justify saying science has evolved? They get the current science, which is what this is, and I'm happy to share this if anybody wants it. It just says they get the current science.
That's right.
Well, thank you for your testimony.
What y'all think? I'm not gonna play it all. I just bring that to y'all attention because this is something that needs to be looked into. Don't y'all agree? A lot of things, like a lot of laws need to be changed, y'all. Y'all don't make them. They need the lawmakers when they make laws. They pretend to make laws. The law's supposed to be protecting the citizen, people, the kids, everybody. But y'all tell me what y'all think. You know how I am. When it come down to something like this, I'm serious. Y'all like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for joining. I'm out.